Alright, so before we get started with this video, like and subscribe because it helps me out. I also appreciate it. And you will get more interesting NBA content like the video you're about to see. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about NBA free agency. So it may not have been the free agency you wanted to see. There's not as many stars on the market this year. But at least in my opinion, it's been an interesting free agency. I've been paying heavy attention to it, as I would any free agency. And a lot of things have changed within the NBA, and a ton of teams are way more competitive than they were last year. So, as you can see in the title, I'm talking about the 5 teams that have done the best in NBA free agency. And my criteria for this, I need to explain it because you might disagree with the list. You might disagree with it anyways. But the criteria for this list is basically, so I'm going from worst to best, at least in terms of the 5, but these are the 5 best. And the teams on this ranking are the teams that are going to be drastically better than they were last year by different signings and different things that they did in free agency. So the relation to where they were at the end of the year to where they are right now with the signings that they made. So we can jump right into it. At number 5, we have the Charlotte Hornets. So the biggest signing that the Hornets made this offseason is they signed Kelly Oubre to a 2-year, $26 million deal. And maybe a year or two ago, we would think that this is extreme underpay for someone of Kelly Oubre's talent. But he had a really weird season with the Warriors. He didn't really fit well. And at the beginning of the year, there were the jokes going around about, it wasn't even jokes, it was like a statistic, that the Warriors, I think, were like one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. And if you take Kelly Oubre's attempts off, they're like the 5th best. So he was really bad shooting at the beginning of the year, but it progressively got better. He's still a really good 3-and-D guy, but he really just didn't fit with what the Warriors were trying to do. So I think he'll fit really well on the Hornets, and he's obviously going to be in the starting lineup. And yeah, he'll be a 3-and-D player for them. He's explosive. He's another one of their high flyers. Hopefully he can shoot the 3-ball a little better consistently all year than he did last year. So I think this is a good pickup. They also picked up, which some people might write off this signing, they picked up Ish Smith, who's going to be a backup point guard for... He's not going to be a backup point guard because Devontae Graham left. Ish Smith, you're probably going to start him at point guard. And they picked him up for 1 year, $4.5 million. And he's going to replace Devontae Graham in the starting lineup because they did a sign-in trade with him to the Pelicans, where the Pelicans signed him for like way too much money. So Ish Smith, he's a really good ball handler. He's really good at finishing. He was on the Wizards last year. He's kind of been a journeyman. I think this is his 10th or 11th team. But, I mean, progressively he did get better last year. And the minutes he had, he was a solid shot creator, and he's a decent facilitator. I think he'll be able to play well for the Hornets. The next signing the Hornets have is Mason Plumlee. They made a really weird draft deal where I forget what it was, but they like moved up in the draft. They sent their 50th pick they sent their 57th pick, and they got the Pistons' 50th pick, and they got Mason Plumlee. So the Pistons didn't want Plumlee for some reason, probably because they want to play Isaiah Stewart. But Mason Plumlee, he's going to be a good starting center for them because Bismack Biyombo and Cody Zeller both left. So Mason Plumlee, he's decent. Not many people watched him last year on the Pistons, but he did have a pretty productive season, one of his best. So he'll be good. The Hornets had a good free agency. Boom, that's done. At number 4, some people may disagree with me on this, but it's the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks, they didn't really do anything in the draft. They traded away both of their picks, one of them to the Hornets, I believe, which was Kai Jones. They signed Evan Fournier to a 4-year, $78 million deal. And some people may think this is a little pricey for Evan Fournier. First of all, I don't see him really staying with the Knicks for his entire 4-year contract. I just don't see him staying there. I don't know if you can really agree with what I'm saying or understand it. But I think they're going to use him as a trade piece down the line. But at least for this season or next or however long he stays, he does address the shot creating issue on the Knicks in the playoffs. They put a lot of their attention on Julius Randle, and no one else could really do anything. Alec Burks stepped up on different occasions, and so did Derrick Rose. But Evan Fournier can knock down his threes. He was a little weird with the Celtics and not really producing the same way he was on the Magic. But he can shot create. He can shoot off of the catch, off of the dribble. And he's an okay defender, but he doesn't really fit their defense as well as Thibodeau would probably like. But you do have enough good defenders that they can make up for his semi-off defense. Next that I have is they re-signed Derrick Rose, 3 years, $43 million. This is a little bit of an overpay, I guess, but Yeah, you got to bring back Derrick Rose. I think he's like 33 now. He's been pretty productive. He was one of the best players in the playoffs for them. Some games he was the best player. Good pickup. They re-signed Nerlens Noel, 3 years, $30 million. A little bit of an overpay, but he's a good backup center for you. Pretty explosive, just pretty good overall. Good defender too. And then you re-sign Alec Burks, 3 years, $30 million. Again, another one of those semi-shot creators for them. He had his moments in the playoffs. He was pretty good. They did lose in 5, but I mean, you bring back this team that exceeded all expectations. And you also add Evan Fournier. And then the one that I didn't mention is they picked up Kemba Walker. And I haven't really seen his contract many places, but I'm pretty sure it's an $8 million deal. I saw that somewhere. And if I don't know if it's I don't know if it's official yet, but if you get Kemba Walker for $8 million, he replaces Elfrid Payton, which was like he was the worst starting point guard in the league last year. So Kemba Walker, when healthy, his knee thing's a little weird. He's still a little off with that, and his injuries were weird all year last year. But like, if he spends the time this offseason to finally be healthy, he will be productive for them. He's one of the best ball handlers in the league. He can shot create, and he's good defensively when he's fully healthy. So yeah, the Knicks exceeded expectations, and they brought back a lot of their group, besides for Reggie Bullock, I believe. And you bring in Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker, who addresses their shooting issue. That's cool. At number 3, you have the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat got Kyle Lowry, 3 years, $85 million. Maybe a little bit of an overpay, but that's whatever. You get Duncan Robinson, 5 years, $90 million. PJ Tucker, 2 years, $15 million. And Markieff Morris, 1 year minimum contract. So Kyle Lowry fits the Heat's defensive identity. He's going to like it in South Beach. He's good friends with Jimmy Butler. And he can also create on offense, which was a problem last year because when they threw their attention at Jimmy Butler, no one else could really produce against the Bucks in the playoffs this year. So, yeah, Kyle Lowry is going to be able to produce on the offensive end. He doesn't really look like he's slowing down anytime soon. I think he's going to thrive in Miami. Next is Duncan Robinson, the 5 years, $90 million. I mean, you may think it's an overpay, but shooters are getting a lot of money in the league these days. And he's been really productive. He was integral to their 2020 championship run. This is a good signing. PJ Tucker, 2 years, $15 million. I don't know why he left the Bucks. Maybe he really wants to be in South Beach. But, yeah, 2 years, $15 million. I don't think that's an overpay for him. He does fit their defensive identity. He's going to be really aggressive. He guards other teams' star players, so that's going to be really good for them. And, yeah, he's going to bring that dog mentality to Miami that they seemingly... I'm not going to say they lost it last year, but it wasn't the same as it was in the bubble. So hopefully that helps. Another good defender who's like a dog that will help the Heat as well. Markieff Morris, 1 year veteran minimum contract. I like this deal a lot. He can provide a little shooting off of the bench. You're not really attached to him long term, which is good, and you didn't sign him for that much money. So this is good. Good defender. Can shoot a little bit. He likes the corner a lot, so that'll be cool. At number 2, we have the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls, their first move was Lonzo Ball, 4 years, $85 million. Then they signed Alex Caruso, 4 years, $37 million. And then DeMar DeRozan, 3 years, $85 million. And the reason that I have the Bulls ahead of the Heat, which you may disagree with, but you're just wrong if you disagree with me, is because the leap that the Bulls made from last year, I'm pretty sure they were an 11 seed. I am pretty sure they just missed out on the play-in tournament. The leaps they made from going from an 11 seed to a team that we can legit see as their ceiling being like the 5th seed or the 4th seed, that's a huge leap. You've got DeMar in town, a good defender. You've got Lonzo in town, who's also a good defender. And DeMar is one of the most efficient mid-range scorers in the league, and he's going to help with their scoring, which they needed last year. And Lonzo Ball is going to help with their defense. And Alex Caruso is also... All 3 of these pieces are good defenders, which they needed a little more defense last year. And just, they're going to be so fun to watch. You have 4 potential All-Stars on your team. You have Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, and DeMar DeRozan. Not saying they're all All-Stars right now, but I'm saying they all either have been an All-Star or have the potential to be an All-Star. So this is going to be a fun team to watch. The pick and pop game. You just have so many options with what you can do. Like, it's crazy. Lonzo Ball can run a pick and pop game with Nikola Vucevic. you just have a lot of options with what you can do with this team and assemble with your lineup, and you also have some pretty solid depth. You have Kobe White on the bench, you have Lauri Markkanen on the bench, Alex Caruso on the bench, and some other pieces that are good. So yeah, the leaps they made from last year to this year are pretty big. And at number 1, there's the Los Angeles Lakers. I've already talked about them in my previous video, but to recap, they got Russell Westbrook in a deal. They signed Dwight Howard, Wayne Ellington, re-signed Talen Horton-Tucker, Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, Malik Monk, and Kendrick Nunn, and they completely addressed every single one of their issues. If you want to see more, go to my last video because I talk, I think, 12 minutes about it. So yeah, you get a pretty good defensive team, maybe one of the best, maybe one of the deepest teams in the league. You address the shooting issue, and you have one of the best transition games in the league, and pretty much every single spot is filled out in the first and second unit. So yeah, brilliant offseason from the Lakers. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me in the comments. That's it for now. See ya.